Her name was Mira. She lived in a small village where everyone knew everyone's name, everyone's story, everyone's business. The kind of place where smoke from morning cooking fires rose together into the same sky. Where children played in the same dirt roads their grandparents once ran through. Mira's home was simple. Mud walls, a tin roof that sang when it rained, a small courtyard where her mother grew tulsi and marigolds. Her father was a farmer, lean and quiet, with hands that knew the language of soil and seasons. Her mother stitched clothes for neighbors. She had a Singer sewing machine that her own mother had given her. It sat by the window, catching afternoon light. Mira had two younger brothers. They were loud and hungry and full of questions she didn't always know how to answer. But she tried. She was 17. She had finished school 2 years ago. There was no money for college. So she helped at home, cooked, cleaned, took care of her brothers. Sometimes she worked in the fields with her father when the harvest season came. It was a quiet life, a simple life, but it was hers. In the evenings, she would sit on the steps of their home and watch the village settle into darkness. She would listen to her mother's sewing machine humming inside, her father washing his feet at the well, her brothers arguing over whose turn it was to sleep by the window. She felt safe in those sounds. She felt like she belonged to something. Then the rains didn't come. It happened slowly at first. The monsoon was late. People said it would come. It always did. But weeks passed. Then a month. The fields turned from green to brown to dust. Her father stopped talking at meals. He would sit with his plate in front of him, staring at the food like he didn't deserve to eat it. Mira's mother took on more stitching work. Her fingers moved faster over the fabric, but there were fewer orders. People in the village were tightening their own belts. They started eating less. Dinner became smaller. Then lunch became optional. Her brothers didn't understand why they couldn't have second helpings anymore. Mira gave them her share when no one was looking. Her father took a loan, then another. He borrowed from a man in the next village, the kind of man who smiled when he gave you money and stopped smiling when it was time to pay back. Months passed. The debt grew teeth. One morning, the man came with others. They weren't violent. They didn't shout. They were almost polite, but they made it clear the debt would be paid, one way or another. Mira's father stood in the courtyard, staring at the ground. Her mother held her dupatta to her face. They lost the land, the 2 acres that had fed 3 generations. Her father became someone else after that. He barely spoke. Some nights, Mira would wake and see him sitting outside in the dark, just sitting, staring at nothing. The village knew. Of course they knew. And slowly, quietly, people began to look past them. Not out of cruelty, just out of discomfort. Because failure, even when it's not your fault, makes people uneasy. Invitations to weddings stopped coming. Neighbors still smiled, but the smiles didn't reach their eyes. Conversations grew shorter. Mira felt it most. She was the eldest daughter. People had expectations. Whispers started. Who will marry her now? Her family has nothing. She tried to find work. She asked at the homes of wealthier families in the village. She offered to clean, to cook, to help with children. Some said no immediately. Others said they would think about it and never called her back. She walked to the next village, and the one after that. Every closed door felt like confirmation. She was not enough. One day they lost the house. Not all at once, but piece by piece. First, her mother's sewing machine was sold. Mira watched as a man loaded it onto his cart. Her mother didn't cry. She just turned away. Then the brass utensils her grandmother had given them, the wooden cupboard, the cot her brothers shared. Finally, the house itself. They moved into a single rented room at the edge of the village. A room so small that when they all lay down at night, there was no space to walk between them. The walls were thin. They could hear every sound from the neighbors, and the neighbors could hear them. Her father found work as a daily laborer, but he was older now, slower. There were younger men willing to work for less. Some days he got work. Most days he didn't. Mira tried everything. She went back to every door she had knocked on before. She begged this time, not with words, but with her eyes. Please, just something, anything. But when you have nothing, people assume there's a reason. She began to understand what it meant to be invisible. She would walk through the village, the same village she'd grown up in, and people would look through her. Not past her, through her, as if she was made of air. Winter came. The small room had cracks in the walls. Cold air slipped through like unwanted visitors. They had one shawl. Her mother gave it to the boys at night. Mira and her parents slept curled tight, trying to keep warm. Mira stopped going out during the day. She didn't want to see the pity in people's eyes. Or worse, the absence of anything at all. She felt like a shadow of herself. She remembered a time when she had dreams. Small dreams. Nothing grand. Maybe learn tailoring like her mother. Maybe one day have a home of her own. Maybe fall in love with someone kind. Now she couldn't remember what hope felt like. Some nights, she couldn't sleep. She would lie awake and listen to her father's breathing, heavy and tired, her mother's occasional sighs, her brothers murmuring in their sleep. And she would think, what is the point of this? Not dramatically, not with anger, just quietly. What's the point of waking up every day just to survive until the next? She started walking at night when everyone was asleep, just to breathe, just to feel like she could exist without being a burden. She would walk to the edge of the village where the fields used to be, their fields, and sit under a neem tree. The silence there was different. It wasn't lonely. It was just empty. One night, she sat there longer than usual. The cold didn't bother her anymore. She just felt numb. She thought about her brothers. They were so young. They still laughed sometimes, even now. They still believed things could get better. She thought about her parents. How hard they tried. How tired they were. She thought about herself. And she realized she didn't recognize the girl she used to be. That girl who sat on the steps in the evening, listening to her mother's sewing machine, feeling like she belonged to something. She was gone, and Mira didn't know how to get her back. It was a January night, the kind that cuts through clothes and settles in your bones. Mira sat under the neem tree, arms wrapped around her knees. She wasn't crying. She was past that. She just sat there, still, silent. The moon was thin that night, barely a sliver. She thought about how easy it would be to just stop trying, not to do anything dramatic, just to stop, to let go, to stop waking up every morning and pretending she had the strength to face another day. She thought, would anyone even notice? Her family would. Of course they would. And that's the only reason she stayed sitting under that tree instead of disappearing into the dark. Not because she wanted to live, but because she couldn't do that to them. So she sat and breathed and waited for morning. Because that's what you do when you have nothing left. You survive one more night, and then another. Not because there's hope, but because you don't know what else to do. Morning came. It always did. Mira walked back to the room as the sky turned gray. Her mother was awake. She looked at Mira's face and said nothing. Just handed her a cup of tea. It was weak, barely any sugar, but it was warm. Mira held it in both hands. And for a moment, that was enough. There was a woman in the village named Kamla Devi. She was older, a widow. She lived alone in a small house near the temple. People respected her, but didn't know her well. She kept to herself mostly. She sold vegetables from a small patch of land behind her house. Mira had seen her before, but they'd never spoken. One morning, Mira was walking through the market, not to buy anything, just to move, to feel less trapped when she felt someone watching her. She turned. Kamla Devi was standing by her vegetable cart, looking directly at her, not through her, at her. Mira felt suddenly exposed. She wanted to look away, but something in the woman's eyes held her still. Kamla Devi walked over. "You're Treelock's daughter," she said quietly. Mira nodded. "Come," Kamla Devi said. "Help me carry these baskets home. My back isn't what it used to be." Mira hesitated, then nodded again. They walked in silence. When they reached the house, Kamla Devi gestured to the courtyard. "Seat." Mira sat. Kamla Devi brought out tea, real tea, hot and sweet, and 2 thick slices of bread with butter. Mira stared at the food. "Eat," Kamla Devi said simply. Mira's hand shook as she picked up the bread. She ate slowly, trying not to cry. Kamla Devi didn't ask questions, didn't offer pity. She just sat across from Mira and drank her own tea. After a long silence, she spoke. "I need help with my vegetable patch and selling at the market. My hands aren't as steady as they used to be." Mira looked up. "I can pay a little, not much, but something." Mira's throat tightened. "I can also teach you," Kamla Devi continued, "how to grow things, how to sell, how to manage money, if you want to learn." Mira's voice came out barely a whisper. "Why?" Kamla Devi looked at her for a long moment. "Because I see you," she said simply, "and I remember what it's like when no one does." Mira didn't cry right away. She tried to hold it in, to be polite, to be grateful without falling apart. But when Kamla Devi stood up and gently touched her shoulder, not with pity, but with respect, with acknowledgement, something broke open inside her. She cried, quietly at first, then harder. Kamla Devi didn't shush her or tell her it was okay. She just let her cry, because sometimes being seen is the kindest thing someone can do. Mira started working with Kamla Devi the next day. It wasn't easy work. Her hands blistered from digging. Her back ached from bending over rows of vegetables. But it was purposeful. Kamla Devi taught her everything. How to prepare soil, when to plant, how to spot disease in leaves, how to price fairly at the market, how to speak to customers without lowering her eyes. "Stand straight," Kamla Devi would say. "You have nothing to be ashamed of." Slowly, Mira began to believe it. The first time she sold vegetables on her own, she came home with money in her hand. Her mother cried. Her father touched her head and said nothing. But his eyes said everything. Weeks turned into months. Mira started saving, a few rupees at a time. Kamla Devi didn't just teach her farming. She taught her dignity, how to ask for what she was worth, how to say no, how to plan. One day, Kamla Devi told her about a government program, a small loan for women starting businesses. No collateral needed. "You should apply," she said. "I don't know if." "You do know," Kamla Devi interrupted gently. "You just forgot. But now you remember." Mira applied, and she got it. It wasn't much, but it was enough to buy seeds, tools, to rent a small plot of land. Her father helped her plant. For the first time in months, she saw something like hope in his eyes. Her brothers helped too. It became a family effort. When the first crop came in, it wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and it sold. People in the village started to notice. Not with pity this time, with respect. Mira still worked with Kamladevi, but now it was partnership, not rescue. One evening, as they sat together after a long day, Mira turned to Kamladevi. "Why did you help me?" she asked. "Really?" Kamladevi was quiet for a moment. 30 years ago, she finally said, "I lost my husband. I had no children, no family. This village, they didn't see me either. I became no one." She paused. Then one day, an old woman, a stranger passing through, bought vegetables from me. And she said, "You have kind eyes. Don't let this world make you forget that." Kamladevi smiled softly. I never saw her again, but I never forgot. And I decided, if I ever saw someone disappearing the way I almost did, I would reach out. She looked at Mira. "You reminded me of myself, but younger, with more fight left in you." Mira's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. Kamladevi shook her head. "You did the work. I just saw you. That's all any of us really need sometimes. To be seen." Today, Mira has her own small farm. She employs 2 other women from the village, women who, like her, had been overlooked. Her family is back on their feet. Not rich, but stable, hopeful. Her brothers are back in school. Her father works their land again. His shoulders aren't as bent anymore. Her mother bought a new sewing machine. She sings sometimes while she works. And Mira? She still visits Kamladevi every evening. They drink tea together and watch the sun set. Kamladevi is older now, slower, and Mira takes care of her because she learned something in that dark season of her life. She learned that kindness isn't always grand. It's not always dramatic or heroic. Sometimes kindness is just seeing someone when the rest of the world looks away. It's offering tea when someone is hungry. It's offering work when someone feels worthless. It's offering belief when someone has forgotten how to believe in themselves. We walk past invisible people every day. People who are drowning quietly. People who have given up on being noticed. What if we stopped? What if we looked? What if we saw them? Not to save them, not to be heroes, but simply to remind them, you matter. You're seen. You're not alone. Because sometimes that's all it takes. One person, one moment, one act of simple, quiet kindness to change everything.